So hi, everybody who is coming in. I think we're gonna wait for maybe just another minute, and then we will start the live info session. Okay, it is, well, for me, 12:33 or 3:33 on East Coast time. And we are going to start. Hi, welcome everybody. I am Vashon Wright. I'm a geophysicist at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And today is the URGE live info session. You will notice a title that says "We are scientists." And in fact, what I'm going to do today is tell us a story. And the story begins with kind of what I've always wanted to be, a scientist. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be someone who figures out how microscale features relate to macroscale features that we observe. I was fascinated by oceans, mountains, tectonic plates, and what small thing was causing these big, gigantic things to happen in the earth. So the question might be, why am I leading the URGE Geoscience program? If you're new, welcome. If you're existing URGE members, welcome back. I'm going to tell us a story. The story of the genesis of URGE. And this story is one that is quite familiar to all of us, and to some of us, a painful story. It's March 2020. The World Health Organization declares that COVID-19 is a pandemic. Then comes February 2020. February rolls by, March rolls by, May rolls by, Ahmaud happens, Breonna happens, George Floyd happens. Then June, Black Lives Matter protests in our streets in America. And at that point, I had to decide. I had to decide whether I was going to join the protests, risk getting COVID-19, and protest police brutality, because that was what my life was about. COVID-19, which was disproportionately affecting Black and Brown communities, my communities, versus protest the unjust killing of Ahmaud, Breonna, George. June happens, then September happens. And in September, there was a series of call to action within the geoscience communities, many call to action. You see one to the side of your screen. It says a call to action for an anti-racist science community from Geoscientists of Color. Listen, act, and lead. And you'd wonder, why did I choose to make this kind of upside down, crooked? And that's because I think this world at that point was upside down, because Ahmaud, Breonna, George, all of this did not need to happen for there to be calls to action. All of this did not need to happen for Black lives to matter. All of this did not need to happen for URGE to emerge. But as a part of that call to action, URGE emerged via a tweet that I wrote June 6th, Geoscience Academic Twitter. Could we commit to reading a book together? A book about how to be anti-racist, one chapter at a time. Discuss with your group. Then let's have summaries from your discussions posted on the website so everyone can read and learn and 96% of the respondees said yes. So I went to NSF, and thus emerged the URGE program. It started with a tweet. It started with calls to action. And in some ways, I was a little bit skeptical. I was skeptical that we were going to go away and read books and then do nothing. And so I wanted to bring the community together, to go away, get informed, and use that knowledge to actually do something. Because we are scientists, and we do studies, take knowledge, and apply it to solve problems related to Earth. And so what I'm going to talk about today is what exactly is URGE, how we've operated, what is the stage we call development that's already happened, what is our structures, and what's the future of URGE, and what we're going to do over the next year to the next 3 years. URGE is run by a team of geoscientists, educators, manager. One of us is a grad student, actually 2 of us is a grad student. And we've been leading the program over the last, since January. URGE essentially is a community-wide journal reading and policy design curriculum or program that is used to help diversify the geosciences. Approximately 4,000 people have participated in the program, and approximately 300 programs have participated. Our goals are to deepen the community's knowledge of the effect of racism on the participation and retention of Black and Brown and Indigenous and other people of color in geosciences, to draw on existing literature, expert opinions, and personal experiences to develop anti-racist policies, strategies, and resources, and to share, discuss, and modify those anti-racist policies, strategies, and resources within a dynamic community and on the national stage. But URGE is a little bit more than that. URGE is also a research project. It is my research project because I am a scientist, and because the group of us leading URGE, we are scientists. And so we asked for feedback. We designed a survey with CERC, and what we asked for is general feedback on pod experiences, suggestions for improving the program, any concerns that participants may have about implementing resources and anti-racist policies. And we were really interested in understanding, did the curriculum increase knowledge? Did the curriculum change behaviors? And what is the thing that inspires people and leaders to act within this space of improving diversity, justice, equity, inclusion, and belonging within the geosciences specifically? So that is what URGE is. We aim to achieve our objectives in 6 different stages. The first one, which pods have already gone through, is called development. And now, since September, we've started the process of refinement. Once refinement is done, we'll go into peer review, dissemination, implementation, and broadening. And I'll briefly discuss what these stages are. In development is where we draft the anti-racist policies and resources that's already been done by over 300 groups and have participated within the program. In refinement, which is the stage we have entered and are entering that will last from the fall of 2021 to the spring of 2022, we improve the anti-racist policies and resources. And once those have been improved, what we'll do is then create summaries of these policies and resources, provide them to anti-racist experts, experts in diversity, justice, and inclusion more broadly, policy experts, higher education experts, experts in admissions, experts in inclusivity, etc., present it to them, and then ask for critiques and inputs on how to successfully implement these things. And you might ask, why would we do this? And my answer to you is the first slide, because we are scientists. And when we write papers, and when we do our research, and when we create things, we turn them over to peer review. And once we turn them over to peer review, we disseminate those things. We communicate them to the public. In dissemination is where we share the policies and resources with colleagues within or institutions or workplaces that did not participate in URGE. Here, the goal is to convince those colleagues to adopt or vote for the implementation of the policies and resources that have been drafted. Once that has happened, then comes the implementation process, where we implement them within our workplaces, as well as design procedures to assess the policies and resources, because we are scientists. And when we have a result, we evaluate them, we assess them repeatedly over and over and over again to improve those products. And so that is one of the fundamental first 5 steps in URGE. And if it turns out that our research says that URGE is successful or successfully meets the 3 objectives outlined, then the next stage is to broaden, that is, to market the methodology of URGE to other disciplines. And I know many disciplines, including ecology, physics, et cetera, has reached out. And that's the goal of marketing, of broadening. Once we know it works for geoscience, then we can go to the next stage. Let's talk about how we've kind of managed the URGE program with the goal of giving participants insights into what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and when we're doing it. URGE has 6 main tenets, which I'll go through. The first one is we focus everything on geoscientists of color. We ask the question in each event, is this going to focus and centralize the voices of geoscientists of color? Are we ignoring what Toni Morrison would call the white gaze, someone looking over the backs of our shoulders? Because ultimately the goal is to improve the lives of geoscientists of color. The second thing is that we honor social science, expert opinions, the lived experiences of all people, especially geoscientists of color, and we research everything and we implement that research into the design of our program. Because again, we are scientists. We aim to build community, particularly a community of geoscientists who are aware of, have done the work to understand the effects of racism on people of color in geoscience, and build a community that is committed to this work, such that that community can spread the word of what we all can do to improve our science. We aim to recognize and compensate people for their work and aim to be a reliable program. There are many other little operation things, but one of the big things that I like is that we tell stories, and everything, there's a start, a finish, and an end to the URGE program. And that's what I will discuss with you today. Start, finish, and the end of the URGE program, and what we all can do to make sure that this program continues to be a success. The first stage was the development that we've gone through. That's where, again, we designed the anti-racist policies and resources. During that time, pods or participants went through 8 two-week sessions where they discussed racism and definitions, individuals, racism and history, and justice, and accessibility, inclusivity, self-care, and accountability. In each of those sessions, participants read 1 to 2 journal articles, heard from live experts. There was an inclusivity tip and a guideline on how to create policies and resources. All resources are now on the URGE website, and I know there might be participants who are interested in a second round of URGE, or whether or not you can invite other participants who didn't get to participate in the program. And to those participants, we say, please reach out to us if you'd like to do the round of URGE and you didn't get to participate in the first step. And then it is really your choice if you want to, at this stage, invite other members of your workplaces to asynchronously go through the URGE program. And if they do that, we will add them to the website, and we will update your improved deliverables on the website itself. So all the resources to do that are on the website. Now, let's talk about urge refinement. What are we planning to do in the next year or so? And so, when we started designing the refinement process, what we did was look at the surveys and see what participants were saying. And we heard you. And we looked at what we also wanted to do, looked at the literature and said, what is the next step in improving this process? And we are providing more. There will be more BIPOC sessions, more guidance on discussing racism, more ways to collaborate with people from different institutions working on the same thing, more resources, more leadership involvement. And I want to also plug that our next BIPOC session will be on Wednesday, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So in the fall of 2021, this fall, we're focusing on BIPOC geoscientists with particularly 3 BIPOC-only sessions. And you can read about this at urgegeoscience.com/BIPOC and read about the rationale and the summary and why. And it turns out that on Wednesday, we'll have a speaker, Lauren Kendall Brooks, who is a guest speaker on how BIPOC geoscientists take care of themselves in the face of racism and within the geosciences in particular. The goal here is to share, connect, and give back. These BIPOC sessions are a space for BIPOC geoscientists to share and support each other, to create opportunities for BIPOC geoscientists to network amongst each other, to discuss what BIPOC geoscientists want in each deliverable, then amplify those voices. And I'll speak a little bit about this. It turns out that many pods did not have a lot of BIPOC geoscientists in there. Thus, those policies and resources, though informed by experts who are primarily people of color working within this space, the lived experiences that would go into creating the policies and resources were missing. And thus, we're hoping to discuss, collect, and summarize what BIPOC geoscientists want in each urge deliverable, then present that to the public, then the public can use those information to improve the current policy and resources that is already created. And the last objective is to get expert opinions on how to navigate racism and navigate yourself in the geosciences as a person of color. And that's happening on Wednesday with Kendall attending this session. We're also aiming to build the URGE community wider. We will have merchandise available within the next month or so in time for national conferences. Here are mock-ups of the URGE merchandise sales. And we encourage you, this is one way to not only support the program, but it turns out that 90% of the time when you wear shirts like these, it starts conversation. And that is what we want, to build a community of geoscientists committed to this work, then to have that community spread the word and spread the knowledge and the goals and objectives of URGE. In terms of building communities, we will be at, we were at GSA, and we will be at AGU. And it turns out we have a union/innovation session on Wednesday, December 15th. And there will be 2 oral sessions and 1 poster session. There'll be approximately 40 to 50 posters within the session. And I'm very excited about this because I've sort of been planning the union session for a while, and I'm going to tell, along with the URGE team, a story that I think is very captivating. And at AGU, I imagine that we all will be in our URGE t-shirts. I imagine there will be a lot of us, hopefully over 800, maybe 1,000 of us, wearing the exact same t-shirts, going to the URGE union session, having our posters on the same Wednesday. And what I imagine is that everybody who did not participate in URGE will have questions. They will wonder why so much geoscientists are wearing this URGE thing. What is this URGE thing? What is the goal of this? And that is a part of the design of the program to not only build a community, but to spread the word, because what we want is that after AGU, when you go back to your workplaces and you are liaising with leaders and people who did not participate in URGE and say, well, actually, if you think about URGE, you are not going to be able to avoid this because they were all at AGU. They were all in this union session. Everybody knows about this. This is where the geoscience is going. And I hope that that will give a lot of ammunition for many of the conversations that seem to be difficult in the implementation stage, as that was something that came out in the surveys as well. And that brings us to the end of the fall. And once spring rolls around, thus comes the big meat of the program, which is to facilitate the improvement of the policies and resources. And we aim to do this with additional resources and more ways to connect. Particularly, we imagine that it will be more intimate. What we're going to suggest is that within your pod, 2 to 3 people, or 1 to 2, depending on the size of your pod, focus on one single deliverable over 3 to 4 months. And those 2 to 3 people focus on improving that deliverable or policy and resources. And that will include looking at where we provide more guidance, that is more additional papers, quantitative, qualitative papers, reading guides to those papers, as well as suggest that you examine the deliverables and policies of resources of other institutions that are similar to yours, because they're all on the website, get ideas from those institutions. And also, we're going to provide summaries of or highlights of what we believe were good deliverables or policies and resources to guide the improvement of your deliverables over 3 to 4 months. We're exploring opening a Slack, a forum on our website, but also having once per month Zoom meetings with individuals all working on the same deliverables. And that is a time for you to connect with a different group or different institutions, similar universities, similar government agencies, similar wherever your workplace is, who are working on similar things, and connect and talk about ideas, talk about implementation strategies. And that's going to be the meat of what we do next year to really go ahead and improve these policies and resources in a very rigorous peer review and a scientific way. Now, the URGE team, at the same time that is happening, will ask for pods to give us names of their leaders so that we can invite them to 3 live meetings with leaders or advocates, people who you want us to talk to. And there we'll describe what URGE is about, what the process is, what is going into the deliverables. We will have analyzed our data and provide them with numbers of participation, numbers of what people are afraid of. And we will also seek to get understanding from these leaders of what the potential barriers are to implementations of some of these deliverables. Where are they having challenges? Why might they be hesitant? And we will communicate that to the public to bridge the gap between people working in URGE and people who might be hesitant, or people who might need to fundraise, people who would need to advocate for making this a part of service, making this important to promotion, making this process class credit, whatever it turns out that we get from participant that is needed to move this thing forward. We plan to do that with these advocations to leaders. And that is our refinement plan, to take a lot of information from the entire public, from experts, from personal experience, to amplify BIPOC voices, all to improve the policies and resources, because we need to do this in a rigorous way. That is what we do with our science. And we do this because we, again, are scientists. After we've improved the policies and resources during the refinement period, the next stage is to think about what is the future of URGE. And you can read about the future of URGE in this Medium article here, urgegeoscience.com, urgegeoscience.medium, and this might be a screenshot time to look at this article, but it's on the front page of our website as well, and in the emails that we sent to you. And I want to highlight something from that Medium article because this sticks with me. The read-ins and expert interviews from URGE's unit on racism and history indicated that many diversity, justice, equity, and inclusion belonging geoscience efforts have waned with time, either due to changes in priorities, lack of funding, or changes in leadership or sense of urgency to fix the issues being dealt with. And we want to prevent that from happening within the URGE program because so many people invested so much time into doing this, and we don't want our efforts to go in vain because URGE is about creating real anti-racist action and lasting change within the geosciences. So the future of URGE, to be honest with everyone, it depends on continued funding. But we have this thing where we want to do peer review, dissemination, and implementation. The goal is to apply for NSF funding to do these three steps next. And we understand that some people might have already been started in dissemination. Some people have already started implementation. And it's going to be an iterative process, but we're going to do this in a rigorous way that is backed up by the literature. Say, how do you implement these policies? And once that's done, then URGE potentially transitions to a nonprofit type of status where it could potentially spread the word and spread what all of you who participated in the program did to make this work and implement these structural anti-racist policies and resources. And so that is the future of URGE, and that's what we plan to do over the next year. But before we start answering questions, I wanted to discuss this thing about URGE scientists. You know, I started with this thing where the World Health Organization declares a pandemic. February happens, March happens, May happens, Ahmaud happens, Breonna happens, George happens, Black Lives Matter protest happens. We have calls to action. And I made the argument in the beginning that this should not have happened for us to do this work. It should not need to happen for us to do this work. And I stand by that. I should be able to breathe. And that's what this work is about. It is about justice. It is about me. It is about fellow geoscientists of color wanting justice, wanting to breathe easily. And frankly, we should not have to ask for that. That should be given. And we are doing this work, geoscience, to improve the lives of people. We're doing this to take care of the earth itself. A lot of our motivations for our studies are motivated by improving the lives of people. And some are not, but we find a way to do this. And we do it because we are scientists. But I've been saying we are scientists the whole time. But I think the thing to remember is that we are human scientists and we are humans first. And being humans first mean that this work, improving the lives of individuals, should be put first. Because the work that we're doing is about dignity. It's about justice. It's about our fellow human being. And we are not just scientists. And we're not only scientists, and we're not only scientists first. We are humans first. We are human scientists. And we should be committed to this work. And my message is we should continue remembering this. And with that, I open it up to questions from the audience. So I have a first question from Susan. It seems my department started URGE later this spring, so we have been going through the curriculum as a pod, but asynchronously from the URGE timeline. We're just in the 4th week of the curriculum. Could we still get our policies and deliverables reviewed by experts when we have our deliverables complete? The answer to that is yes. So we just had another pod send us all their policies and resources. We've put their pod pages on the website. So if you are going through the program asynchronously, you can actually submit deliverables, and we'll make a pod page for you. So is there another question? I'm a little bit worried about treatment of BIPOC individuals in pods. There are many leaders or pods who profit off the labor of BIPOC scientists, but don't acknowledge that labor or the work of their colleagues. Is there any way to have accountability for these kinds of things, or provide insight to the leadership so that things like this can be minimized? Yeah, so, a lot of the BIPOC sessions that we've been having is to do exactly these things, to discuss how we can acknowledge the labor, how we can, get, the information of what we want in the deliverables without causing harm. And a lot of the things that we plan to do with the leadership is also to have those types of conversation and advocate for not only acknowledgement, but also how you are looking at the work that BIPOC geoscientists are doing in URGE and in the review period, et cetera. And so those are a lot of the conversations that are happening within the BIPOC sessions. I have another question here. I'm not sure what a pod really is or how to create one, so we can go through asynchronously. So a pod is basically a group of individuals who are going through the program together. And oftentimes those individuals are in the same workplace within the geosciences. So if you email us, and our email's on our website at the top, saying, I'd like to participate in the program, you could do that. But what might be even better is just form your group, look at the pod pages on the website, do all the program asynchronously, and submit to us via email all the deliverables and all the things that are needed on the website. I have another question, and I'll take just these three and then wrap it up. During the inaugural part of URGE, there was a deliverable review and almost a certification process. Is there a structure for holding URGE participants accountable for their work? So one of the things that we'll ask is for pods to let us know if they're continuing within the refinement process, as well as ask pods to submit their refinement of their policies. And some of the things that we'll also ask is for a 3-month update on what progress have been made within your pods over time. And so I think we're at 5 past the time. And so what we'll do is we'll take these questions and then put out written answers to them on either our fax or Twitter pages, and then go from there. So I want to thank everybody for coming again, and look out in your email on our URGE Twitter for more information on some of these future activities. Thank you, Matt, and thank you, everyone.